If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm Kathryn, your host, and today is the Q&A show for October. I hope that you find the Q&A shows practical and that you benefit from hearing me discuss issues that people are facing in their recovery from binging. You'll probably find that you can relate to a lot of what other people are struggling with, and even if it's not your specific question that I'm answering, if you have submitted a question, I hope that you'll still be able to apply what I talk about. From reading all your questions and also from working with the groups that I have, the 8-week course that I'm running right now, and also our after-course support group, I know that there's a lot of common questions that come up while you're trying to let go of this behavior, and it can really help to realize that you're not alone and that other people are struggling with a lot of the same issues. So just know that whatever issues come up for you, there's always solutions and there's always ways you can deal with it. There's always ways that you can continue moving forward in recovery, even when it seems really difficult. And I never want anyone to give up. There's always help. There's always hope. And I hope that these podcast episodes provide you with some guidance that you can use to let go of the binge eating habit. And this question is from Rose. And she said, I've read both of your books, I've listened to all your podcasts over and over again. In the episode where you interviewed Lydia, it hit me that I completely understand the concepts, I eat adequately, but I'm struggling so much with mentally dieting, causing me to restrict mentally and then physically binge later. Do you have any suggestions or tips on how to stop mentally dieting? This is another great question, and I think it's something that a lot of people do struggle with when they learn to eat adequately and try to move away from this dieting mindset. And Rose mentioned the interview with Lydia, and I will include a link to that episode in the show notes today. Lydia talked a lot about how dieting simply does not work, and it's important to give up both physical dieting, like not eating enough food, and also mentally dieting, which is more like creating a lot of rules for yourself or just judging what you're eating a lot. And even if you are eating enough food, like enough calories, maybe just really thinking certain food groups are off limits and are bad, and just having a lot of criticism around how you eat and not really having it be a natural process. I think that mentally dieting can come in a lot of different forms, and it's hard to sort of draw the line between what's maybe normal and what's harmful to you. And I think that everyone kind of has to draw that line for themselves, because there is so much information out there today about how certain foods are not good for you, how it's not good to put certain chemicals in our body that a lot of these foods have. And there's a lot of information against processed foods. And really, I feel like almost any food, you could find someone who says it's not good for you. You know, some people say that it's great to eat meat. Some people say meat is awful. Some people say dairy is good for you. Some people say you should never eat dairy. And it's just, the list goes on and on. I mean, really, it's hard to sort of sift through what's good and what's not good for you. And I think, not to get too far on a tangent here, but the answer to what's good for you is different for every person. Like, I can't sit here and tell you exactly what foods are good for your own body. So getting back to mentally dieting, I think some of that nutrition and health information can feed into the dieting mentality. And again, it can be hard to know where the line is between normal and abnormal. How do you know if you're just caring about your health and trying to take care of yourself, or if you're restricting yourself and you're depriving yourself and creating a lot of unnecessary, unhealthy stress for yourself? So, Rose, my first suggestion would be to kind of step back and evaluate what you think is your mental dieting and what is just you engaging in healthy self-care, and see if you can separate the two. Because most people aren't comfortable with the idea of just eat whatever you want, whenever you want, don't label any foods as bad. And I agree with that to an extent, I really do. But we have to pay attention to what's relatively good for our bodies. I mean, we don't want to constantly be putting food into our bodies that doesn't make us feel good. And that's not dieting. I mean, it's taking care of yourself. It's eating enough, but also choosing foods that nourish you and that fuel you and that make you be energetic for living. And there's a big difference between that and telling yourself you can't have this and you can't have that because it's going to make you gain weight. I mean, that's a totally different thing. So if you can separate out what is healthy self-care and what is your mental dieting, I think you'll have a much clearer picture on where the problem is. And then if you're having those self-care thoughts, like, I'd like to choose to eat this because it makes me feel good, then you can just let that go. And that's not a problem. It's okay to want to take care of yourself. That's okay. But then if you can see on the other hand, when you're making really rigid rules and you're creating stress for yourself and you're telling yourself no all the time and just not viewing the big picture, just seeing things in very black and white terms, if you're engaging in those behaviors, that's part of your mental dieting. That's the behaviors and the thoughts that you want to overcome in order to have a more natural, relaxed, normal relationship with food. So that's the first thing. Just to reiterate, it's separating out healthy self-care from mental dieting. And the line may be a little different for every person. The next suggestion I have for you is to see that mental dieting may be just another habit at this point. You could have been in the habit of dieting physically, not giving yourself enough food, making stressful, rigid rules for yourself. And now that's kind of what your brain does automatically. And even though you're eating adequately, you're feeding your body in a nourishing way, your brain is still firing off these automatic thoughts of judgment, of you shouldn't be having this, you should be losing weight. Just these kind of automatic thoughts that are there just because you dieted in the past. And those thoughts are just still coming up because that's kind of what you've trained your brain to do. And I think that you can view those thoughts as more neurological junk. Just as I teach you to view the urges to binge as neurological junk, you can view dieting thoughts as that same form of brain junk that's just automatic, that you don't need to give attention to, you don't need to give emotion to. You can just realize what it is, but then also realize you don't have to take it so seriously. You can experience it, but you don't have to follow through with it. You don't have to do what this sort of harmful dieting voice in your head is telling you to do. And you also don't have to let it upset you. That's the same thing when we talked about M's question before. In dismissing the urges and separating yourself from them, it makes the experience a lot less uncomfortable. So if you can do the same with dieting thoughts, when you have those dieting thoughts, you won't think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm having these thoughts again. What's wrong with me? You can just say, oh, those are my dieting thoughts. They're there because that's what I did in the past, but I no longer need to give them attention, and just kind of let them go instead of engaging in a battle with them. So don't battle your dieting thoughts. The last thing I want to talk about in regards to your question is that you said the dieting mentality causes you to restrict mentally and then physically binge later. Now, I just want to dissect that a little bit because it's kind of implying that the dieting mentality is causing the binging. And I always want to remind people that in this approach, things can only cause urges. So any experience that you have, any thoughts that you have, even dieting thoughts, can only lead to urges. So you always want to see the urges as the cause of the binges. So even if you have a lot of those automatic dieting thoughts throughout the day, you still do not have to follow the urge to binge. Realize that those thoughts cannot actually make you binge. And I know that you probably know this if you've been listening to a lot of my podcasts, but you always have that ability to dismiss the urge. So you can view it as, okay, these dieting thoughts tend to lead to urges for me. That's just my pattern. I have dieting thoughts, then I get urges to binge, but I can still dismiss the urges. So on the one hand, yes, it will be very helpful for you to work on those dieting thoughts and learn to separate from them and learn to distinguish them from your thoughts of more healthy self-care. But then on the other hand, realize that no matter what thoughts you have, you still can dismiss that urge to binge. So really learn to work on that piece of it and to feel your power and your control to still say no to the binges, regardless of those thoughts that were going through your head throughout the day. Rose, I really appreciate that question. I hope that some of this discussion will help you kind of sort through what mentally dieting is to you and then how can you move forward from it. and also how you can stop letting that dieting mentality become a reason to binge. I just have one final announcement before I close the show. I want to mention the coaching audios that I've talked about in previous episodes, and I want to apologize that I might have announced them a little too early because I didn't really consider how technology sometimes goes. So I really appreciate your patience. There is an interest list that I started, which is linked in the show notes, that you can put your name on that interest list, and I will notify you when they're available. And when I email you, I'll also include a discount for these audios. So I encourage you to go get on that interest list. And I truly appreciate your patience. For those of you who have been on that interest list for a while, thank you so much. And I apologize again that it's taken longer than expected. For those of you who may be new to the show and have not heard about these coaching audios, they're going to be 14 audios, and they're shorter than these podcasts, but they're me coaching you through different aspects of the 2 recovery goals of dismissing urges and eating adequately. And it's just about keeping you focused on what you need to do each day to recover, and keep these concepts in the front of your mind and keep you focused and keep you motivated. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that you benefited from the discussion, and I hope that you'll join me again next time. And for now, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.